Cage fights, lawsuits, and a literal measuring contest. Billionaires duking it out over who gets to make the most money from free speech. Folks, this is it. This is the epic climax of late-stage capitalism. We were promised this. But behind the Musk vs. Zuck cage match and the headlines, there's another interesting story here. For today's episode, I'm explaining how Twitter in general, and Musk in particular, ended up on the wrong side of a $500 million class action lawsuit from Twitter's former employees, a lawsuit which, for reasons I'm going to explain today, Musk has very little chances of winning. This is the story of how Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter, changed the little blue bird to a white X, locked the best features behind a paywall, laid off 6,000 workers, challenged Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight, which Musk's mother later canceled, and ended up with a company worth just 1/3 what he paid for it. Now, why am I even talking about this? Why does a labor lawyer care about this? Well, for starters, Musk has insisted that his leadership has nothing to do with Twitter's problems. Instead, he blames Twitter's own former employees and activists for the loss and declining revenue. So he nerd raged and fired approximately 6,000 people. But when the Mountain Dew high wore off and the dust settled, Musk had allegedly violated multiple federal laws and wound up on the business end of a lawsuit worth $500 million. So before we can get a Musk versus Zuck cage match, provided everyone's mother agrees to it, Musk must first survive the growing legal challenges besieging what's left of Twitter. I want to take you back to October 26, 2022, outside the doors of Twitter's San Francisco headquarters. It was a special day for Elon Musk. As the new owner and CEO of Twitter, he finally had a chance to save Twitter from itself. No more activists chasing away advertisers. No more bots. No more woke censorship. Twitter was under new ownership. Free lunches and remote work were out. Free speech and in-office coding sessions were in. This was it, the new Twitter. An extremely hardcore Twitter, according to Musk. Only the toughest, the best, the most extreme employees would be allowed to stay. Musk was there to clean house and crack down. In October 2022, he wanted to let that sink in. I'll tell you this much, Musk knows how to commit to a bit. On October 26th, he literally picked up a kitchen sink and hiked it all the way to Twitter HQ and posted a picture of himself with the sink in his hands, saying, "Let that sink in the caption. Well, Twitter did in fact let that sink in. What followed was the corporate equivalent of a massacre, a machete attack, a Mountain Dew-fueled nerd rage perpetrated by the mayor of Mars himself, Elon Musk, allegedly. According to federal court filings, when Elon Musk assumed control of Twitter, he immediately fired the entire executive leadership team, and this kicked off a series of 4 rounds of mass layoffs. Round 1 was by far the biggest. On November 4th, 2022, Elon Musk laid off 3,700 workers. One of them, it's a name you're going to want to remember. Her name was Courtney McMillan. Here's a hint. She's not the person that you want to lay off in a situation like this. But that was only round 1. On December 16th and December 22nd, Twitter further laid off employees in its public policy and infrastructure teams. And then in February of 2023, Twitter laid off an additional 200 workers, or 10% of what was left of the company. When the dust settled, Musk had laid off nearly 6,000 employees, or 80% of Twitter's original workforce. Musk's acquisition had come with a dark cloud. People expected this. They were scared. Twitter had experienced major declines in advertising revenue in 2022, primarily due to advertisers' concerns over how Musk intended to run the company. They were also concerned about his intention to scale back content moderation. Now, he wasn't trying to eliminate all moderation, he just wanted to dial it back. But still, it made the big brands nervous. Because if there's one thing big brand advertisers don't like, it's getting sucked into the lose-lose game of political controversy. And if you don't believe me, take a case of Bud Light to the family barbecue and let me know how that goes for you. The point is this. People weren't sure what Elon was going to do. It made advertisers nervous, and it made the tweeps, people who worked at Twitter, it's what they called themselves, it made the tweeps anxious. And you got to feel bad for the tweeps. Despite the fact that Musk had paid $44 billion to acquire Twitter, the company simply wasn't worth that much. It was an unprofitable company with serious problems ahead of it. Even before Musk's acquisition, up to 25% of Tweep's jobs were already on the chopping block. But to say it was all doom and gloom isn't giving Elon Musk enough credit. Way before he dragged a literal kitchen sink into Twitter HQ, back in April 2022, Mr. Musk and Twitter announced that they had reached a deal for Elon Musk to acquire the company. This deal was called a merger agreement, and it was scheduled to take full effect in October of that year. Now, by this point, the media was dogpiling on Elon Musk. Advertisers were pausing their Twitter campaigns, and some Twitter employees were getting a little freaked out that their jobs weren't safe. Now, we know with hindsight that they were right, but at the time, no one knew it was going to happen. To say there was widespread skepticism that Musk could successfully run Twitter anywhere except off a cliff is putting it lightly. And mass layoffs in the tech market overall at the time weren't helping. So, to quell the Tweep's concerns to keep morale stable, Twitter had sent a company-wide email in May of 2022. In that email, they informed the employees of Twitter's benefit plan and its contents. This is a severance plan. This is a, hey, don't worry about your jobs, we're going to take care of you plan. The company also published a series of frequently asked questions, or FAQs, about its severance plan in April, June, and October of 2022. So they're really trying to make sure everyone knows, hey, don't freak out. We've got a plan. We've got a severance plan. You're going to be fine. That's what the company and Elon Musk are telling these workers. And this part is super duper important. Listen to this. If you're in an argument with your weird cousin who's a big time Elon fanboy, and they want to tell you Musk did nothing wrong, just remember this one fact to demonstrate your intellectual supremacy. It's the whole reason we listen to podcasts, to get one good fact and smack people down with it. So here it is. Twitter had a severance plan in place for its employees. That plan was specifically incorporated into Section 6.9, of course it's 69, it's Elon Musk, Section 6.9 of the merger agreement. In that section, Twitter promised its employees that the plan was protected, and during the purchase, Musk agreed to honor the plan all the way to October 2023. We have a severance plan, we have a benefits plan, and even when Elon Musk takes over, you're going to be okay. Now, what did this merger agreement say? The merger agreement provided that Twitter would continue to provide employees with, quote, severance payments and benefits no less favorable than those provided under Twitter Employees Benefit Plan as it existed immediately before the merger. So everything you got before Musk took over, you're going to get after he takes over all the way to 2023. Now, this sounds like corporate gibberish, and honestly, it kind of is, but trust me, this is crucial. Morale at Twitter was an all-time low. Watching their new boss pump and dump Dogecoin and drag kitchen sinks around town wasn't really helping. Tweeps needed assurances that their jobs were safe. And here's the atom bomb. The FAQs specifically stated that in the event of a layoff, any employee whose job was impacted would be eligible for severance. Okay, so Musk makes a bunch of promises here. What's the big deal? People make promises all the time. People break promises all the time. So why is this promise worth $500 million? Well, I'll tell you. It's because of my little friend, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, or as the Department of Labor calls it, ERISA. ERISA is a federal law that regulates private sector benefit plans like the one at Twitter, and that can include severance. ERISA has a few rules, but important for today's show, the law establishes what's called fiduciary responsibilities for managers who control assets that fund a benefit plan. Fiduciary responsibilities are essential here. When you become a fiduciary, you have an ethical code that you have to abide by. It's because when you're in charge of assets that are used to pay for other people's money, it's not your money, it's other people's money. So there's rules. You have a strict duty of care. You can't have conflicts of interest. You can't engage in self-dealing, and you super duper cannot commingle your assets. You can't take some of the plan's money and mix it with your money. You can't take out loans for yourself against the plan. These are things you can't do as a fiduciary. When Elon Musk purchased Twitter, he became a fiduciary in charge of managing Twitter's benefit plan. And according to the lawsuit filing this month, Allegedly, he also commingled, mixed his personal assets with the company plan, and used the plan to get loans. This is all allegations, but none of it's good. None of this is good if it's true. All of this did something magical. It made Elon Musk personally liable for failure to comply with ERISA. That's really the problem here. It's not that just Twitter or X Corp or X Holding is in trouble. Elon Musk personally is liable. Now, if you thought those pesky ERISA requirements were kind of boring, you're not alone, because it turns out Musk really thought they were boring, and Musk literally does not give a shit who he owes money to or why. By way of example, Musk has been sued by Twitter's PR agency for $830,000 in unpaid invoices. I tell you, now is a bad time to stiff your PR people. Not a good time for that. Also included is $3.36 million in unpaid rent at Twitter's San Francisco office buildings, $665,000 in unpaid invoices for office equipment, and a total of nearly $10 million for unpaid invoices worldwide. This is just a snapshot of over 26 lawsuits and counting for Musk's unpaid bills. The takeaway here is that, unlike a Lannister, Musk never seems to pay his debts. Now, the layoffs we reported, the 6,000 people, they had another problem. Not just the ERISA violations, which are very, very expensive on their own, but they also didn't get any warning before their jobs were slashed. Employees reported arriving at their offices only to find their key cards suddenly didn't work. Staff logged into their computers and found that they were kicked out of their email and locked out of Twitter programs. Employees who emailed Musk and managers were ignored. There was no communication, but occasionally their tweets could get a response. One employee, who went by the name Holly, had been locked out of his work computer for about a week. He tried to get in touch with management. Everyone ignored him, so he didn't know if he had been fired, if he still had a job. He didn't know what was going on. So he tweeted at Musk himself, saying, "Maybe if enough people retweet, you'll answer me here." It worked. To this, Musk replied, "What work have you been doing?" Straight to the point, no pleasantries here. In the exchange that followed, Holly described the projects he'd been assigned to at Twitter, and he disclosed that he had a disability, muscular dystrophy, which confined him to a wheelchair. In response, Musk did not take this lightly. In response, Musk declared that Holly did, quote, "no actual work," claimed as his excuse that he had a disability that prevented him from typing, yet was simultaneously tweeting up a storm. Now, there's a lot of controversy when this very public exchange hit the news. It's notable that Holly had been with the company for 2 years. I think Mr. Musk forgot about reasonable accommodation and how it works. You can be disabled and type just fine. There's lots of technology to help with that. Holly replied to Twitter's new CEO as follows: "This was never a problem at Twitter, since I was a senior director and my job was mostly to help teams move forward, give them strategic and tactical guidance. I'm typing this on my phone, by the way. It's easier for me because I only need one finger." But anyway, I digress. The point here is that Musk's layoffs were sudden, widespread, and appeared to violate the WARN Act. And for those who don't know, the WARN Act is a federal law that regulates how large companies can conduct a mass layoff. Spoiler alert, surprises aren't allowed. Look, the law doesn't tell you can't do a layoff. It just says if you do a layoff, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The Worker Adjustment Retraining Notification Act, or WARN Act, was passed in 1988. And here's a bit of interesting history for you. President Reagan actually refused to sign this bill into law, forcing Congress to invoke a very rare legislative device called the congressional override. That's where Congress can override a president's veto or their refusal to sign with a 2/3 majority vote. So why did Reagan have a problem with the WARN Act? Well, probably for the same reasons Elon did. It's that notice requirement that you can't lay people off without at least 60 calendar days notice before slashing the jobs. But that's not what Twitter did. They just locked everyone out of their computers and hoped the situation would sort itself out, which it very much didn't. It did not sort itself out. According to the class action complaint, after locking employees out of their offices and computers, Musk failed to pay any of these employees the severance benefits they were entitled to under the plan. And he failed to comply with WARN, so it was a double whammy. We have an ERISA violation, we have a WARN violation, and you know what? Screw it. Throw a breach of contract in there too. That's what the lawsuit does. Despite this, Elon wrote on his Twitter account on November 4th, 2022, this was during the first round of layoffs, that terminated employees were receiving, quote, 50% more than legally required. This episode of Working Class is brought to you by Centurion Trial Attorneys. That's right. This is my law firm. I'm the founder. I am the CEO. We fight for workers' rights and we represent victims of serious car accidents. If you're in the state of California, just dial 888-CALL-RYAN or fill out a link in my bio. And if you're out of state, I've got a lot of wonderful friends I can refer you to. Again, Centurion Trial Attorneys. This is the real deal, folks. This is my law firm. Give us a call if you need help. I'm going to give you some advice. If you're ever in a lawsuit and you're on the hook for millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, everything you tweet becomes an exhibit. Everything becomes evidence. So if you're going to yet again promise that people are going to get 50% more than legally required, you shouldn't tweet that unless you mean it. Now, the tweet by Elon Musk here, it's not technically a lie. This is something lawyers are familiar with, I'm sure. Technically, it's not a lie. Twitter offered some of the terminated employees up to 3 months compensation. That's 2 months to comply with the Warren Act and 1 month to comply with their benefit program, the severance pay. Because Musk lawyers, if he listened to them, I presume he listened to them, they probably tipped him off that the Warren Act has a neat little loophole to get you out of trouble. You can pay workers severance equivalent to their lost wages for the 60-day notice period, and you get out of a lot of damages. Sounds good, but there is another problem here. The 3-month severance is a fraction of what these employees were entitled to under the plan. So here's what really went wrong here. And this is what a lot of the big news stories aren't covering, probably because they aren't lawyers. I don't blame them. It's not about the 60-day notice. That's part of it. It's the ERISA violation, this benefit plan that they had in place that they'd promised these people. They didn't honor the plan. Now, remember Courtney McMillan? If you forgot about her, I don't blame you. She was in the very beginning, that first round of layoffs. Turns out Courtney really knew about Twitter's benefit plan. She had read Section 6.9 of the merger agreement, and as director of employee benefits at the company, the head of benefits there, no one knew more about this than she did. And in the first round of cuts, Musk fired this woman and stiffed her on her pay. Not the person you want to piss off, not the person you want to owe money to. As of July 2023, public reporting and federal filings indicate that many laid off employees like Courtney have yet to receive anything at all. This was November of last year. We're now in July, and the lawsuit's alleging that no one's been paid anything. So not even the minimum under Warren, not the bonus benefits that would have violated ERISA. Musk is in trouble here. So I'm going to dial it back because we're going to get into some gory details. The next couple of minutes get really ugly for Elon Musk. Now, I don't hate the man. I honestly don't even dislike him, but he's a human being. And what a lot of the Elon fanboys, the people who are convinced that he's saving humanity and can do nothing wrong, maybe he is saving humanity, I don't know, but he's still a human being. He's susceptible to foolishness, hubris, greed, arrogance, all the human emotions and flaws that anyone else has. So he made a series of mistakes, and by reporting them here, it's gonna sound bad. I'm just telling you what happened. We're not trying to clown the guy. We're just saying what happened. After waiting a long time without being paid what was owed, the employees were pissed, and Musk missed his chance to capture that sort of loophole to just pay them a couple months of severance and be done. So now, in addition to the severance, the employees are entitled to their vested stock, which of course they would have gotten, bonuses, a cash contribution for health insurance, and 3 to 6 months of outplacement services. This is in addition to the severance and attorney's fees. This all adds up to a massive tab at the end of the day. And the question is, how the hell is Elon going to pay for it? Musk money woes are kind of legendary for a man who on paper, is the second richest human to ever walk the earth. Musk's net worth is reported to be around $254 billion. Now, there has to be a distinction here. Your net worth and how much money you have in the bank are two different things. But looking at his net worth, $254 billion. That is enough to buy the Burj Khalifa and make it your personal residence, and buy a private fleet of 15 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, and end world hunger by 2030, according to the UN Food Program, and pay the $500 billion alleged in the class action, and somehow, for reasons no human mind can mathematically comprehend, still have about $17 billion to spare. Even after all that, you still get to be a billionaire. I am telling you, humans just, a billion is so much bigger than a million. And the human mind really cannot comprehend how much a billion is, let alone 254 billion. It's a level of wealth that literally exceeds our brain's comprehension. So with all of this wealth on paper, why is Musk skipping out on his bills? Why is he being sued for unpaid invoices? Why does he refuse to pay the employees what he promised and what he agreed to pay when he signed the merger agreement and bought the company? Where's the money? Well, it could have something to do with this. This is just speculation, but this is what I think has happened. It could have something to do with Twitter's dire need to achieve positive cash flow and regain its competitive position in the market. The Twitter of 2023, or X Corp of 2023, is kind of a shadow of its 2022 self. According to the New York Times, Twitter is on track to post a $3 billion revenue in 2023. That might sound like a lot, but that's actually a roughly 50% decline in revenue. And much of that is due to advertisers pulling out. And Twitter isn't dominating the market like it used to. It's still the front runner, but it's got some serious competition. Alternative apps like Mastodon, Blue Sky, and more recently Threads are all competing for user engagement, and they're taking more of that advertising revenue away from Twitter. And Threads might be the real threat here. The app operates very similarly to Twitter, and according to Musk's lawyers, it has been alleged that Threads has some former Twitter employees helping build the program. Threads has achieved over 100 million downloads in its first month, and even though user engagement has dropped off quite a bit, it is still a very real threat to Twitter's core business. So in addition to the lawsuits, the money woes, they've got some serious competition out there. With competition this fierce, it was only a matter of time before things got physical. That's why on June 20th, 2023, Elon Musk literally challenged Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg to a cage match. This caught major media attention. UFC boss Dana White even offered to produce the fight, put it together, and this was getting touted as a fight that could net $1 billion in pay-per-view revenue. Everyone wanted to watch Elon and Musk duke it out. Now, the match was eventually called off, reportedly because Elon Musk's mother intervened and said he wasn't allowed to go. Now, that's really what happened, but, billionaires have moms too. But the fight wasn't over yet. Elon said in a tweet directed at Mark Zuckerberg, quote, "I propose a literal dick measuring contest." Man, we really strayed from the original lawsuit here, but I think this is just indicative of what's really going on. How does a guy with $254 billion not just pay people the money he promised to pay them? What is the motivation here? What's going on? What should have been a cool app where people share their ideas and employees can put their work toward a product they believe in has somehow devolved into cage matches and dick measuring contests. Perhaps this is the problem. When a single person has this much wealth, this obscene, unmanageable, incomprehensible degree of wealth, it's just not about the money anymore. It's not. The bills go unpaid, not from an inability to pay, but out of principle. Employees are fired and not given the severance they were promised because they just weren't up to the Musk standard. It's not about the people. It's not even about the profit. At this level of wealth, it's about showing everyone who has the bigger dick. That's what this is. We may never see a cage match between Musk and Zuck, and I hope we never see the dick measuring contest. No one needs to see that. But we will get a legal cage fight between Musk and the tweeps, the people he laid off. $500 million probably doesn't mean much to Elon, but if this is really about principle, then he should put up the boxing gloves, put away the measuring tape, put his pants back on, and just pay the people what they are owed. It wasn't owners and shareholders who built Twitter. It was real working people putting their energy into building the world's digital town square. Folks, this has been an episode of Working Class with Attorney Ryan. If you like the show, please give us a like, drop a comment, share it with a friend. Hey, tweet it, or actually don't tweet it. This would be hilarious. Share it on Threads. That'll piss them off. Anyway, see you on the next one.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah,